Welcome to this session on adding rooms. Now, once the floor is defined, rooms can be defined. So rooms are added to the model in order to define the surfaces that make up the spaces within the building. When rooms are created, exposed walls, partitions, virtual walls, floors, ceilings, exposed roofs, and plenum objects are automatically generated both graphically and in the room object hierarchy of the project tree. Now, prior to creating rooms, we're actually going to set up some defaults that will be used in the creation of the rooms. This basically has to do with the materials or constructions that will be assigned to the surfaces of the rooms. And they will be based on the 3-story office building that we are modeling here. Now, application and project defaults are set up in the Defaults Manager, which is on the Data Managers tab up here on the ribbon. And this Defaults Manager can be used to set up a variety of defaults for both the application and the project. Now, project defaults are set up for this project only. This allows you to have different setups for each project whilst still using some of the application defaults, which would be set up for the entire Energy Simulator application. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Defaults Manager. So you can see there's 2 tabs here, the application defaults, which we're going to leave alone. We're going to just leave those as they are, and we're going to switch to the project defaults. And what we're going to set here are some of these construction defaults. So as we create rooms, it's going to use these constructions on the surfaces of the rooms. And we know that the building we're looking at has a brick exterior, and so we might as well set that construction before we even model the rooms. So we are just going to select the pull down, and you can see there's a number of different wall constructions there. And we're going to scroll down and find one that is brick 105 millimeters with an air gap 50 millimeters and ply sheathing of 19 millimeters, mineral fiber in a 95 millimeter stud with a plasterboard of 13 millimeters. And I'll select that. And I'm also going to change the partition. We'll just use this plaster on concrete block. We can also set the defaults here for our floor heights and any ceiling plenums. So our floor height on this particular office building is 4.5 meters. So we'll put that in. And the room height we will also put in as 4.5 meters. Which means we have no ceiling plenum. And the only reason you would need to actually define a ceiling plenum is if you were using it as a return air plenum. Otherwise, the ceiling constructions that we will apply will include a plenum in them. Now, in terms of our window openings, we're going to use a default of 2.4 meters. These, of course, can be changed as you place the windows, but if you have a consistent window height, then putting in the default will make that process a bit easier. And we're going to put in a sill height of 0.6 meters. Our door height we'll put in at 3 meters for our entry doors, and the base height will be 0. Then I'm going to select Apply, and we'll select OK. So now that we have our defaults set up, we can start defining rooms. So I'm going to go back to my Home tab. And there are several ways to define rooms. We can either trace the room from the floor plan, or if we have defined shapes, like we might have if we had space data in our floor plan, we can use those shapes to actually define the room. And you can see here we do have these space shapes in our floor plan here. Now, before we start actually defining rooms, we may want to quickly cover our mouse buttons. So this is similar to any of the Bentley applications, but we have what we call the data button, which would be the left key. We have a reset button, which would be the right button on the mouse. And then the wheel, as we mentioned earlier, is used to scroll in and out So I'm going to select the Define icon on the ribbon. Now the Define Room dialog opens. So the room type is selected as Cellular Office. And we're going to change that to SIBSY Reception. All right, so we're going to initially start with our lobby spaces on this lobby floors. And so we're going to give this room a name. I'm going to zoom in here. You can see these rooms have names on the floor plan. So we're going to start with this one, Front Lobby. And I'm just going to use the same names. Now notice these are our default heights, 4.5 meters, and no ceiling plenum. Now all we need to do is select the shape that's already in the model. And so on my top view here, I'm just going to use that left mouse button, the data button. Anywhere within that space, we'll select that space. And you can see in the ISO view there, it's actually building the 3D portion by extruding the height. And that's it. That's the first room. You can see that we could now expand our tree here and see that we have our first room, the front lobby, and there's surfaces assigned to that. And we're ready to start the next space. It's still set to our room type of reception, and we can put in the second name. And if we scroll in here, we're going to now do the back lobby. The remainder of the settings will be the same. And again, we can just pick a point within that space and it will generate the space. And then we're just going to continue to define the spaces that are in the core of the building here. So we have several mechanical spaces. And so I'm going to change my room type to the plant room type. And we'll start with the first one here. Mechanical. Select the space, and then we'll move to electrical. Select the space, and we'll do the service as well. Now we also have the lift lobby. We're going to change the type then to circulation. And then I'll move over and do the toilet rooms. And so again, we'll change our type to toilet. And we'll do the men's and the women's. And I can always left click in the view to complete that and then close my Define Room tool. And you can see now we have our list of rooms over here under the lobby floor in the project tree. Now couple of spaces we did not do were the stairs here. Those didn't actually have space names and shapes. So we are going to define rooms for the stairs, but we're going to use the trace tool this time. Now, in order to do the trace, we're going to have to be able to snap to the corners of the walls, and we do have an AccuSnap that makes that very easy. And along with that, we'll use another tool, which is Accudraw, which basically gives us a compass that will allow us to keep our orientation on the X and Y axis. So let's just start by selecting the trace tool. Again, we have our trace room. I'm going to change my type again back to the SIBSY circulation area. And this first stair, I will just name stair 1. And I'm going to toggle off rectangular, and we'll just actually trace the shape of the stair. So we get a little practice with our Accudraw and AccuSnap. So I'm going to work in the top view here, and I'm going to come up here, and if you notice, as I might even zoom in a little bit here, As I get close to an intersection or an endpoint, I get that little yellow X on my cursor or next to my cursor, and that indicates that I'm snapped to that endpoint or that intersection. And if I data point, I can be sure that I'm selecting that point right there. So once I see that yellow X, I'm going to left click with my mouse. And now you can see I've got a line on my cursor. I'm basically tracing the shape. I'll come down to the next corner. And once I get that yellow X, again, I'll left click. Notice how I have this compass on my cursor every time I click. So that compass controls my rotation. And if I move my cursor along an axis, and you'll kind of see how you get that gray line, a little hard to see in this view, but that means I'm on the axis. And if while my cursor's there on the axis, I use the Enter key on the keyboard, it actually locks me on the axis. So you can see now as I move my cursor, I'm locked on that axis. I know that I'm going to draw in a perpendicular manner. It also means I can come up here and I could just snap anywhere along this wall edge. And it's essentially the same as a snapping to this endpoint, which you can see because the column is there is a little hard to find right now. So I'm just going to snap somewhere along that wall. And then again, I have the same problem on this side, but I can use that Enter key to make sure I'm on the axis, and then I can just snap anywhere along that wall. And then once I'm done, once my shape is complete, I'll use that reset, the right click, to finish the shape. And there's my stair. And we can see it there in our tree. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. This one will be stair 2. And we're just going to do the same thing. This is good practice, right? Just want to make sure you're snapped. I like to use that Enter key to make sure I'm on the axis, and then just snap to the opposite wall. Once I've completed the 4 intersections, I can right click to reset, and that creates the stair. And then we'll go ahead and do the 2 lift areas as well. So we're going to have a service lift. Now on this one, I might toggle on my rectangular option so that I can just select 2 points. Again, I just want to make sure I'm snapped to one corner and then select the other corner. And then we want to do the passenger lifts as well. I'm actually going to toggle off the rectangular because I don't have clean corners to snap to. So again, just like I did with the stairs, I'm going to use my Accudraw and my compass to draw that rectangle. And then right click and reset. And we'll go back and fit our views. And so now our lobby floor is complete. We've added all the rooms. And in the next session, we'll take a quick look at some of the room properties.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.